Hello everyone, how you doing? My name is Alice, and if you don't know me yet, I create 3D printed figures and prepare STL files for my Patreon, and I also prototype create kits. Today I bring you the speed sculpt of the Princess of Guienevere. There has been quite a significant boom around this pilot episode, mainly because at the time I am recording this video there has still been no confirmation or news about whether which studio is going to continue the series. However, it's also become the most viewed pilot episode in YouTube history. This is not only because of the history itself, but also due to all the mysteries that this first episode or pilot has introduced to fans who have not stopped coming up with theories. And honestly, many of those theories could be true since we have very little information with just one single episode. I want to remind you that Glitch Studio is funded through their merchandise and video views, but about all through their merchandise. So if you want to support the series or the studio, you already know where to go and buy them. It is an independent studio, and it is currently one of the few shining lights in the world of independent animation. Just a few years ago, independent animation was not taken very seriously, and now it is practically leading the industry, especially since in recent years, companies like Disney and others have not managed to deliver strong content or really good content. Most of you probably already know Glitch Studio from the Amazing Digital Circus, but up until now they have only created the 3D animated series, and that is because the two founding brothers started out in the 3D world with animation inspired by Mario 64, and this is their first 2D project. I started to create this boost of the Princess of Guienevere like an experiment or just a sketch, but I think it's turned out really well. One day I will absolutely love to officially create merchandise, so I want to take this opportunity to send a message to any studio out there who might want to get in touch with me and collaborate or something. That would truly be a dream come true. For now, all I do is just fan art and try to survive as an independent artist. I do not have much more to add regarding all the theories that have already been discussed about this fantasy world, in which the entire planet seems to function like some kind of attraction center around the figure of the princess. However, I would like to share my opinion on all the fan arts that I have been saying. They are all absolutely amazing. But at the same time, I'm really surprised by how many people are creating fan arts of a character who literally appeared for only 1 second. I'm referring to the teenage version of Olivia, who is the current timeline of the series is much older, though we don't know her exact age. It is true that I personally really like the concept art of the teenage Olivia, but I suspect she may actually be a super evil character. We are more or less already know that, blah blah blah, yara yara, but well, you know, that her mind is fractured due to the unresolved trauma involving her mother. We don't know. One of the things that caught my attention the most was the idea of an illness caused by some kind of contamination. It is really clear that the series has a post-apocalyptic theme, so in a world destroyed by large corporations, I have heard that Glitch Studio is throwing some shade at the big companies like Disney, suggesting they pollute a lot through their merchandise, most of which is produced in China. But to be honest, I have no idea that it's their intentions, probably not. Speaking of which, I would like to mention something. For the first time in many years, the ozone layer is not longer deteriorating. So I like to think that maybe we will not end up in this super bad futuristic future. At some point, there was some discussion in the community suggesting that Frankie might be transgender. This was based on the idea that there is a little physical resemblance between her appearance as a child and her appearance as an adult. A similar thing happened with Andy, who looks like a young boy, or it is unclear what gender is during childhood, but with Frankie there was a bit more speculation about it. That was partly because the character's name was changed from Francisca, yeah, more or less, to Frankie, which is more neutral name, I suppose. I am not native English speaker, so I'm not very familiar with whether certain diminutives or nicknames are considered more feminine or masculine in English. In my country, people do not really make a big deal out of that. As an example, we have names like Alejandra, which is feminine, and Alejandro, which is masculine, but both are commonly sorted as Alex, regardless of the gender. So for me personally, I did not interpret that Frankie was transgender or transitioning just because of the name change. I believe that it's more like that she is simply working in a world that is mostly dominated by men. So it will make sense for her to act a little bit taller, or for someone to give her a nickname that sounds, let's say, slightly more masculine, simply because of the environment she is part of working. I'm gonna be completely honest here, because if you have ever worked at least 45 hours a week, you already know that sometimes you have to inject coffee into your veins just to survive the day-to-day routine. I really like it when designs look like real people who are just surviving. Mine entire without makeup, not overly put together, and with dark circles under their eyes. As a hardworking woman myself, not always, but mostly yes, who has a job and also dedicates time to art, I completely understand what it means to be in survival mode and to work countless hours until the body says enough. Everyone in this world needs to work, and this is super under an enormous amount of pressure, not only because she was fired, but also because society treats her as if she is the one to blame simply for having worked at a certain company. She literally defends herself saying like, I need to eat. I mean, you cannot fight the system when you are the only one who needs starving. We have to earn a living. One single person cannot take down the entire substance. That is just the truth. You adapt or you do not survive. And that is not only true in the series. It is the reality we all live in. I have friends that loves to create imaginary worlds, and many times we find plot holes or elements that are a little bit hard to believe in them, and I wanted to talk about one of the issues that come up in our conversations about the world of Guienevere. First of all, both Andy and Frankie seems to know quite a lot about how to modify or repair these kind of humanoid machines, and for that I believe you need a deep knowledge of both programming and electronics or coding. We were discussing how both of them, and apparently many others, seems to have lost their families, since even young people are shown to be sick with this kind of blue illness, and at no point do we see them receiving help from any relatives like parents or aunties or something. Because of that, we can suspect that they are practically orphaned, Andy and Frankie. At first, this seems like a plot hole to us until I remember that there is a program in North Korea where children are literally taught how to program and hack from a very young age. This is because you know who, after traveling abroad, become fascinated by the world of video games. So I suppose that even though they might be orphans, they could have received at least a minimal education from childhood, perhaps provided or imposed by the government. It does not seem far-fetched to me that their schooling will be very different for us. In other words, instead of subjects like mathematics, natural science, language, English, Spanish, French, or chemistry, they might have classes in programming, hardware design, or software design. After all, if it is a public and compulsory education system, the government will want people to become the key components for maintaining the functioning of this entire universe. Therefore, they will be taught how to work in such fields. On the other hand, there also seems to many people who works in factories, so it could be the only those who make great efforts and apply themselves diligently in these areas are the ones who eventually get to work in them. It seems that the vast majority end up in a factory jobs or in works that does not require, to put it mildly, a high level of technological knowledge or formal education. That could be also intentional, since the government might prefer to keep most people blind to certain subjects so they cannot aspire to better positions. Well, I'm very aware that I'm talking about politics and this is an animated series. It is very likely that one of these was even considered from the start, but I like to think that if it were the case, this government, which we don't know even if whether it is a dictatorial or democratic, truly wants to maintain this extremely capitalist structure of the society. It is very likely that this is a dictatorial monarchy, but to be honest, none of that really matters when they literally send a giant half-human, half-robot creature to kill you. I would love to create more characters from the world of Knights of Guinevere, but I'm not sure how popular this video will be or the figure will be, and I'm still working on the video of Henry Na's contest, where I talk about many of the projects that were submitted but did not appear in Henry livestream, although personally I really like them. I asked for a bit of patience while I finish it. But above all, even though my videos do not follow a strict script, I would really appreciate if you could, give me a like if it's managed to entertain you for a while during your meal. I usually look for a YouTube video to watch while I eat, although many times I end up finishing my meal without finding one that truly catch my attention. I hope you like this one, to be honest, and we can see each other again soon in the next video. Bye bye, see you, Space Cowboy.